Drawing from Observation, Lesson 10, Drawing Heads and Faces. Before starting this lesson, please have the following materials ready: sketchbook, sketch pad, ebony pencil, kneaded eraser, pencil sharpener, mirror, and directional reading light. Subject matter, heads and faces, yours and other people's. Keep track of assignments. To each exercise in order in your sketchbook or sketchpad, and on each page, write the number of the exercise, for example, O-10A. Remember to take photos of all the drawings you do for this lesson and some of the subjects. We'll indicate which ones. In this lesson, the last in the series, you'll be drawing one of the most challenging subjects there is, the human head. But as with perspective drawing, there's no need to worry. You've learned the techniques you'll need, including contour drawing when you let your hand follow your eye, constructionist drawing when you break down complicated objects into geometric shapes, and tonal techniques using light and shade to depict volume. We applied these skills to drawing the mannequin in Lesson 9 and also covered the proportions of the figure. Here, we'll walk you through the proportions of the head and face and provide information on drawing the features. Let's begin with a warm-up drawing to see how you do prior to going through these instructions. Exercise O-10A, Warm-up, Blind Contour Self-Portrait. Time, 5 minutes. Materials, sketchbook, mirror, ebony pencil. Subject, your face in a mirror, not from a photograph. This will be a blind contour self-portrait working from a mirror, including your whole head, face, hair, neck, and shoulders. As you'll recall, blind means drawing without looking at your paper, and contour means the edge of a form as it turns in space. So contour lines can cross surfaces, like going inward from the edge to find the eye or tracing the planes of the nose. To start the blind contour of your face, find a point where one edge meets another, maybe where the chin meets the neck. Start out drawing, letting your eye follow the edge slowly and carefully, and letting your hand follow your eye without jumping ahead. Feel free to move off the edges to draw the features, ideally following plane changes like the cheekbones. Imagine that your pencil point is actually touching the edges and surfaces you're observing, and only look down at the drawing when one line ends and another begins. Still, take your pencil off the paper as little as possible and keep drawing until the time is up. Okay, start. and stop. Take a photo of your drawing and then take a selfie, shooting it as close as possible to the angle you viewed your face from in the mirror. Now look at the difference between the photo and the drawing. Naturally, because you weren't able to look down at the drawing very often, the proportions of the head and face and features are probably way off, like in a caricature. In any case, distortions are common among beginners until they study proportions. So we'll go through the proportions now while we demonstrate a constructionist approach to drawing the head and face. As you watch, sketch the basic steps and record the proportions in your sketchbook so you'll be able to apply them when you draw faces again. Also, keep in mind that these proportions and features are generic and will have to be adjusted slightly for every person you draw. That means these measurements aren't rules to be followed, but guidelines to help you notice what makes the face you draw unique and individual. Exercise O-10B, following a portrait demonstration. Time, 15 minutes. Materials, sketch pad, ebony pencil, pencil sharpener, kneaded eraser. Subject, human head and face. Turn your sketch pad horizontally and follow along with these drawings, taking quick visual and written notes. Don't try to copy the drawings exactly. Just extract from them the visual information you'll need to do your own portrait drawing. We'll be drawing from both a profile, side view, and a front view, lining up features between both views to establish their common proportions. Start the profile view on the right side of the paper with the face turned to the left. Begin with a sphere for the back of the head about 5 inches in diameter. Add a cylinder curving back slightly for the neck, and then add a long vertical oval for the facial area. Notice that the right side of the oval comes to the middle of the sphere where the ears will eventually be located. Now let's look at an illustration of the profile with the standard measurements for the placement of the features. Notice the following lines: top of the head and chin, horizontal midline where the eyes are, hairline 1/4 of the way down from the top of the cranium to the eye line. Now we'll divide the face in thirds from the hairline to the chin line. The first third indicates the brow line, the second third the base of the nose, and the last third going down to the base of the chin. Now draw these lines in your sketch of the head. Top of the headline and chin line, eye line in the middle of the head, hairline 1/4 of the way down from the top of the head and the eye line, brow line 1/3 of the way down from the hairline to the chin line, and bottom of the nose 2/3 of the way down from the hairline to the chin line. Next, carry the main lines across the page to establish proportions for the front view. Initially, take lines across from the chin, the top of the head, and the eyes. Then add another line indicating the base of the cranium, which will allow you to draw in the initial sphere of the head for the front view. Continue by adding the oval for the face. Notice that the oval is narrower than the sphere. That's because the back of the head is wider than the face. Finally, add a cylinder for the neck, making it slightly narrower than the oval for the face. Now let's look at the proportions of the face from the front. The face is divided vertically down the middle of the head, dividing the nose, etc. It is also divided horizontally across the eye line. Notice again the divisions in thirds from the hairline to the chin. Also notice that there is another line halfway between the bottom of the nose and the chin, which indicates the bottom of the lower lip. Now that we've reviewed the proportions of the head and face, we'll develop both views using a constructionist approach. Watch these demonstrations, and while the video is playing at normal speed, continue to sketch as we do, making visual notes, locating general shapes, and blocking in the features. Alternating with placing the features will develop the drawings, adding refinements. Don't try to copy the drawing at these points, which anyway are too fast to copy, but do watch carefully as the images evolve, and keep these procedures of developing and refining in mind for when you do your own portrait drawings. First, follow the demonstration and draw ovoids for the forehead, cheek, mouth, and chin. Then add an angled rectangle for the nose and a small, approximately 1-inch sphere for the eye, placed between the forehead and the cheek ovoids. Now watch, don't draw, as we define the profile and add small ovoids for the tip of the nose and the wing above the nostril. Next, we'll add lines to indicate the planes of the nose and the projection of the brow over the eye. We'll also define the planes of the lips and refine other edges, adding the eyebrow and the hairline. At this stage, you can add the ear as an oval slanting back. As we said, the front of the ears are midway between the front and back of the head as a whole. The top of the ear lines line up with the eye line, and the bottom lines up with the bottom of the nose. Also, notice how we draw the hair not as individual strands, but as bushy masses of hair, sometimes called shocks. Shocks of hair are separated into planes too, like for the top and sides of the head. Next, continue drawing the face from the front. Begin by shaping up the jaw and clarifying lines in the brow and temple area to help separate the face from the back of the head. Indicate a vertical for the midline of the face to help you align the features. Before going any further, let's look at some additional proportions from the front. Note that when drawing the eyes, there is one eye width between the two eyes and approximately one eye width more on either side of the head. On your drawing, indicate these proportions using vertical lines for referencing before drawing the actual eyes. Then, rather than drawing the usual almond shape as the eye usually appears, we draw the eyeballs as spheres. Later, we'll wrap the eyelids around them. But first, draw concentric circles for the iris and pupil of both eyeballs. make notations for the nose. The width of the nose is about the same as the eye width between the eyes, so you can drop verticals from the inside corners of the eyes to find the wings above the nostrils. Use this measurement to add the nose to your front view, and add a small sphere for the tip of the nose and long ovoids for the wings above the nostrils. We'll also extend lines along the bridge of the nose to define its front and side planes. For anatomical accuracy, we'll add the keystone of the nose between the eyebrows and sloping lines above the eyes to indicate the upper edges of the eye sockets. With these structures in place, we can add eyelids and eyebrows and refine the other features. Now follow us as we drop lines from the irises to locate the corners of the mouth, and go on to draw lips, noting the bow-like shape of the upper lip and the points where the lips meet the philtrum, the groove below the nose. Then add ears, lining them up with the eyes and bottom of the nose. Next, we'll clarify the neck form and finish by sketching in the hair. Again, keep these steps in mind as you begin the final portrait assignment. Before you start, we must add another point about proportions. We already said that these proportions vary somewhat from person to person, giving each face its unique characteristics. Equally important, these proportions only apply when looking at the head straight on and even with your eye level. Looking at the head from different angles, the center line changes and the receding features will be foreshortened. Looking at it from above or below, the face is foreshortened lengthwise so that the features crowd together and can even overlap. Now that you've been through this practice session and have the measurements down, you're ready to start your own self-portrait. Or if you can find someone to pose for you, you can draw another person. Obviously, the self-portrait will be a front view, and you will be drawing in a mirror. The portrait of another person can be done from the front or the side. In either case, be sure you're looking straight on as much as possible. Before starting to draw, arrange your light as you did with the cube and sphere so the light comes from one direction. Ideally, the light should be placed above the head from the front and to one side. Then direct the light so it illuminates one side of the face more than the other. Exercise O-10C, Developed Portrait. Time, 3 steps at 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and 15 minutes, so 40 minutes. Materials, sketch pad, ebony pencil, pencil sharpener, kneaded eraser. Subject, portrait of you or another person. Start by indicating the combination of sphere and oval shapes for the head and cylinder for the neck. Pay attention to the unique characteristics of the outlines of these masses as you construct the head. If they're drawn well, the rest will be much easier. Whatever you do, don't dive straight into drawing the contours of the features. Instead, continue to indicate proportions with schematic lines, noticing any variation from the generic ones we listed earlier. Start with the central line and the eye line, then indicate the 3-part vertical division for placing the hairline, brow line, bottom of the nose, and chin. Add hair, if applicable, and lines to indicate the 5-eye division across the front of the face, unless you are drawing a profile. Next, look at the particular forms of your features or your models instead of generic ones and draw these. Okay, start. And stop. Now look at your drawing. Check to see that the eyes are about halfway between the top of the head and the chin, not the hairline, and look for the three-part division between the hairline, eyebrows, and bottom of the nose. See how the ears line up, too. For example, if the model's head or yours is tilted slightly up or down, the ears will be lower or higher relative to the eyes and the nose. Make any corrections needed before going on. Now you can begin to block in the general tones of dark and light. Squint to distinguish exact edges of light and dark areas, using values to reveal large plane changes on the forehead, cheek, jaw, neck, etc. Then add smaller values around the eyes, mouth, and nose. Okay, start. and stop. Finally, look more carefully at these value areas and refine them, adding core shadows and cast shadows. Then use the kneaded eraser to add reflected light, soften shadow edges, and just clean up the drawing. Okay, start. And stop. Congratulations! You've now completed this series on drawing from observation. Once you've finished the last drawing, take a photograph of your face or your model's, and then compare the photograph with your drawing and see how drawing has helped you see yourself or your model. Having followed these lessons, you have a new set of skills, both in drawing and observing. Continue to develop these skills, and you'll find ways they'll apply to many things you do in life.